Welcome, everyone. My name is Stephen Boyd, and I'm the Dean of Enrollment Management and Student Life here at HJI. And it's my pleasure to welcome you this evening to our program. This is a special virtual open house that we're holding with the theme, Where are HJI graduates today? We're so pleased that you could join us. I'm looking at the registrations. I know that there are folks from the New York City area, from other parts of the US, and also from around the world. So no matter where you're coming from, thank you for making time to be with us this evening. We're hopeful that this will be a meaningful program for you. Our fall semester is coming up, so we're having a series of programs like these to interest people in studying at HJI. Classes begin in August, so we're looking forward. If you're interested in learning more about HJI, I'll be dropping my information in the chat box for you to contact me later. Tonight we have a very full program. And to start off, it's my pleasure and honor to introduce Dr. Thomas G. Walsh, who is our president here at HJI. Dr. Walsh is the 7th president of HJI. He graduated in 1979. After HJI, he went on to earn his PhD at Vanderbilt University School of Religion, where he specialized in the study of religion and ethics. Since his graduation, Dr. Walsh has been an instructor, professor at a number of colleges and universities throughout the United States and different schools. And he's, of course, teaching here now at HJI. Last semester, he completed a course with Reverend Damian Dunkley entitled Unification Studies Seminar, Ministry and Public Leadership in America. He will be teaching a very interesting course this fall also, which we'll talk about later, which is entitled World Religion and Encounter with Christianity. As many of you know, Dr. Walsh has worked closely with HJI co-founders Reverend Sun Myung Moon and Dr. Hak Jahan Moon in the establishment and leadership of the Universal Peace Federation, UPF, where until recently he served as an international chair. He is also editor of the magazine Dialogue and Alliance, an academic journal indexed by the American Theological Library Association. It's my pleasure to welcome Dr. Thomas Walsh.
Thank you, Dean Boyd. Thank you for your putting together this program and your very effective leadership of our enrollment management and student life department of HJI. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for being here tonight for this program, one in a series to introduce HJI, and we have each time, as Dean Boyd said, a kind of different focus, and tonight is about where our alumni are. And as Dean Boyd mentioned, I graduated in 1979. That was the third graduating class. And of course, that time, Unification Theological Seminary, and we were based up at in Barrytown in upstate New York. Now our campus is at 4 West 43rd Street in Manhattan, and our name is HJ International Graduate School for Peace and Public Leadership. For me, attending HJI was transformative and impactful in the sense that I think it's set a kind of trajectory for my life that was as important as getting involved in the Unification Church and the wider movement. My wife is also an alum, and we overlapped for a year. She was in incoming class and I was in the kind of about to graduate. So we spent 1 year together, not really knowing each other, but ended up being matched together, and then a couple of years later attending the blessing as was customary within our church at that time. But I always think about the importance of HJI in my own life story, and therefore, I'm very happy to encourage others to seriously consider enrolling in HJI, taking a course at HJI. I think also for those of you connected to our church, HJI is kind of developing and evolving in ways that I think parallel the kind of wider development and evolution of our church and movement. And it was really Mother Moon who recommended and advised that we shift toward becoming a graduate school with an emphasis on peace studies. And in a sense, it represented moving out of what we might call our seminary era. It doesn't mean that we secularized or we felt let's try to be fit into a very secularized world by no means, but kind of understanding that religions, in many ways, its function is to be engaged with the world and to find ways to impact culture and various sectors of society in powerful and positive ways, whether it be spheres of the political or international relations or the economy and society and family, etc. So it kind of expands this concept of peace to include not a simple definition related to, let's say, international relations and relations among nation states, but more broadly as something that applies to every sector of society and even at the individual level very much. So it's an exciting time in my view. I'm excited to be here, and we have a wonderful faculty and the best students in the world. We're going to hear from a couple of our alumni today. And I just want to conclude just with those few comments and once again say thank you for being with us tonight. And I'm very happy that we have this evening Dr. Thomas Ward. He served as my predecessor as president of HJI and has thankfully stayed on. He served as provost and is functioned as a real mentor and advisor and continues to do so for me because he comes on a great foundation of having spent some 25 years or so in various significant positions in higher education, particularly at the University of Bridgeport, where he served as a vice president and as the head of a department that addressed issues of peace studies and international relations, international political economy, etc. He is a member of our faculty and he heads up our program in peace studies. You'll hear a little bit more from Dean Boyd, but I'm grateful to have Dr. Ward as a colleague here with us as part of our team, and thankful that he took time to be with us this evening. So I'd like to just welcome you, Thomas Ward, to deliver your presentation about where and who and what are our alumni doing.
Thank you so much, Dr. Walsh, and greetings to everyone who has taken the time to join us this evening. And Dr. Walsh is 100% accurate in saying that this is a new era for HJ International, and we feel particularly blessed to have Dr. Walsh here because of his special relationship with Mother Moon, and it gives the entire institution an opportunity to move to a different level and to find itself in a different mode and approach than has been known in the past. And I've been really feel privileged that I've been able to spend the last couple of years here at HJI supporting this new initiative of our institution. And as we move forward into this particular area of peace studies and of overall just the role played amongst religion and the social sciences in the fostering of peace and understanding and interreligious dialogue. So let me begin now by sharing my screen with all of you, and I'd be happy to speak a little bit about our graduates, whom we are really very, very proud of, and they are really our brand, so to speak. And it's wonderful that we have a chance to hear from several of our alums this evening as well. So What are our HJI graduates doing? Well, let's begin by talking about what HJI's most important contributions are, because the graduates and the faculty are tied into those things. The whole development of a unification theology, it stems really from the work of Dr. Young-Lun Kim, one of the first pioneer missionary here in the United States. And she did an incredible job. If you haven't read Unification Theology, you really should read it. It's a remarkable bridge between the Christian world and the unification world. And Dr. Theodore Shimio, one of our early graduates from the first class, he has taken on the mantle of responsibility for the ongoing development of unification theology. And he will be bringing forth very soon a new text on unification theology, which we're all very excited about. David Kim, our first president, he really was also an historian. And that role of historian has also been taken on by one of our early alums, Dr. Michael Mickler, who has taken Dr. Kim's work and his own work and training to bring unification history to a new level. Many of you are aware that last year, one of his writings, The Unification Church Movement, was published by Cambridge University's press, Cambridge Elements on New Religious Movements. And it's an excellent text that I really advise you to read it if you're interested in understanding really in a very clear and factual way the history and the development of the Unification Church Movement. And for a number of weeks, that particular publication was the top release in the area of religious history on Amazon.com. Interreligious dialogue began at HJI. Another of our alums, Dr. Andrew Wilson, really played the leading role in the development of world scripture and the teachings of Sun Myung Moon, which ties together all the teachings of the scriptures and shows how those relate to, likewise, the teachings of Father Moon. Likewise, unification thought, Dr. Claude Perrotet, likewise an HJI graduate, actually translated unification thought, this particular rendition of it, from Korean to English, did a marvelous job. And you see there as well, Professor Jerry Servito, who has been really, I think, the main teacher of unification thought for decades here in America. And he's also an HJI graduate. Likewise, Causa International and the Causa Lecture Manual, all the work related to Causa, those things had their roots and their beginning point at HJI, and it was HJI alumni who worked on the development and the refinement of that particular text over the years. Organizations such as WONGO, the World Association of Non-Governmental Organizations, and likewise the Universal Peace Federation, led by WONGO by Taj Ahmad and UPF by Dr. Thomas Walsh, has really been crucial in terms of reaching towards both the religious world and likewise reaching towards international governmental organizations and governmental organizations and non-governmental organizations. Our first graduation class, that took place back in July 1st, 1977. So we are really, actually a year from now, we will be celebrating the 50th anniversary of the opening of HJI. It opened for the first time in 1975. So we've been around for a long period of time. Out of that first graduating class, 3 of them went on to Harvard Divinity School. One went to the University of Chicago Divinity School, another to Union Theological Seminary in New York. 2 went to the Graduate Theological Union at Berkeley. 1 went to Drew Theological Seminary, 1 to the University of Toronto, and 2 went to Fordham University. And 1 also went on eventually to do his doctorate at Unification Theological Seminary. Dr. Michael Jenkins, who served for years both as president of the Unification Church and of the Family Federation, and also who currently serves as the president of the Universal Peace Federation worldwide. He was one of those graduates of that first class, as was Dr. Hugh Spurgeon, who served as vice president of our church for a number of years and also served as president of Unification Theological Seminary. And Dr. Shimia, whom I also already mentioned, likewise served later as president of Unification Theological Seminary. And Dr. Thomas Sullivan, many of you are aware of Dr. Sullivan. He served for many years as the president of our sister theological graduate school, which is located in Korea. And there are so many other leaders that were produced from HJI. On the top there on your left, you have Manjola Vazmatish, and she serves as a major family-fed leader in Eastern Europe, and particularly she's also the national leader in Albania. You see here Katerina Connery, who has served for more than a decade as the vice president of Women's Federation for World Peace USA. You see Dr. Chung Shik Yang, who serves as the chairman of Universal Peace Federation International. You see Dr. Michael Balcom, who serves as the chairman of UPF and of the Family Federation in Europe and the Middle East. You see, likewise, Dr. Jenkins, of course, and Dr. Katsumi Otsuka, who now serves as the chairman of UPF and Family Fed in Japan. And of course, Kayleigh Moffat, who we're lucky enough to be able to hear from this evening, now serves as the president of Women's Federation for World Peace USA, and has done some remarkable things to continue the development of that remarkable organization. And these are just a number of the many leaders who have been involved in HJI over the years, not the least of whom we're going to be able to hear this evening, really a brilliant lecturer, an exceptional leader, and a person who currently is really pioneering the witnessing and education program here in the United States. We're grateful that we're able to have Reverend Kevin Thompson with us, and are very proud that he now numbers among our HJI graduates. He went a long course and process in order to get there, and was an outstanding student, and as I said, is an outstanding leader, and we're very proud of him and grateful he can join us tonight as well. Also, some of the recent Family Federation president, now Kimi Ushiroda, and recent regional vice president for the Heavenly Parents Holy Community, Vice President Milhan Stevens. Likewise, and president of YSP, are recent graduates of HJI. So next, I'd like to just highlight a few categories of our notable graduates outside of the religious sphere, although some of them are within the religious sphere as well. I'd like to, first of all, mention our best-selling author, Bento Leo. He's sold over 100,000 copies of 4 Essential Keys to Effective Communication. If you go to Amazon.com, you'll see that his book is listed as an Amazon bestseller. And I just had the privilege, along with Reverend Thompson, to hear Reverend Leo speak this past weekend. And what a remarkable speaker and communicator, not just to wide audiences, but also on a one-to-one basis. So skilled, and he brings so many talents from his years of experience, and it's all encapsulated there in that remarkable book. In terms of public scholarship, we have people like Dr. Jonathan Wells, who is a resident scholar at the Discovery Institute. And he's gone through a lot because of his views. He's not a creationist, so to speak, but he points to the limitations of a purely Darwinian explanation of evolution. And he's been lambasted in a variety of ways, including because of his faith as a unificationist. But he's been stalwart throughout the years, not ever stepping back from his faith, and also not stepping back from his scientific discoveries and convictions, holding both a PhD from Yale University in the area of religion and a PhD in the area of biochemistry from University of California at Berkeley. Brilliant. And James Rogers Fleming, just a remarkable scholar. And he's the Charles A. Dana Professor of Science Emeritus, of Science, Technology, and Society, Emeritus at Colby College, a very fine national college, which is located in Maine. And he has served as the Charles A. Lindbergh Chair in Aerospace History at the Woodrow Wilson International Center for Scholars. And he's written at least 10 books, multiple articles, and it is just, I think, 12,000 citations on Google Scholar, if you take a look. And he's a person who all those years he's kept his faith. And I was privileged to be his classmate during my study at HJI. and also Claude Perrotet, who's a Paul Tillich scholar and translator. There are a variety of Tillich's writings that existed only in German, and Dr. Perrotet was able to translate a number of those texts, and he's been hosted at a number of conferences in order to come and speak there because of his expertise in the area of Paul Tillich's work, and particularly these less known writings that he's been able to delve into. And actually, he did his PhD thesis on. And as I said, he continues to be involved and invited to speak at conferences around the world based upon his scholarship. Dr. Kathy Winings, who served for many years as a professor of religious education at HJI, and she served as the president of the Religious Education Association of America, a major cohort of religious scholars specializing in religious education. And she led there. She offered creative insights, and she has just done a remarkable contribution in the area of religious education. Then there's the area of film, art, and performance. There's community artist Carol Pobance that many of you know. She's not just a community activist, but she's also a community artist, and she has done a variety of community art pieces in New Jersey, at the UN, in Central America, and South America. And she really is able to design remarkable works conveying fundamental messages that identify with ideals that all of us share, as you see here, matters such as unity and peace and harmonizing with nature. Also, Carla Angeline Mongado, who's a professional vocalist, teacher, and Broadway performer, who likewise recently graduated from HJI as a Master of Arts in Religious Studies, and continues on Broadway and elsewhere to perform and to contribute. And a very, very talented artist with so much promise. And then there's Lee Shapiro, who was an award-winning filmmaker and screenwriter. His film Nicaragua Was Our Home screened at the Sundance Film Festival back in 1985 and was nominated for the Grand Jury Prize there. He was the recipient of the Cine Golden Eagle Award in 1985. And also in 1985, he received the Angel Award, which focuses upon films with a message that emphasizes the role of nonviolence. His film Nicaragua Was Our Home was broadcasted nationally on PBS in 1985. And he was commended in a letter from President Ronald Reagan for being a man of conscience. And many of you know that while he was working on a second film on Afghanistan entitled Against the Empire, he was killed by Soviet troops in 1987 in Afghanistan. But a remarkable and very committed and highly talented artist, Lee Shapiro, he likewise graduated in the first class of HJI. In terms of public service, the Honorable Pambari Cyril Pascal Bonzi, who just graduated this past May from HJI. He serves on the working group for the strengthening of the Convention on the Prohibition of the Development, Production, and Stockpiling of Bacteriological and Toxin Weapons, and on their destruction and elimination. And he does so at the United Nations Geneva. He likewise serves as the first secretary of the permanent mission of Burkina Faso to the United Nations. And also Honorable Eknath Dakau, likewise a 2024 graduate of HJI, who served as a Minister of Government for Nepal and also currently serves as a Member of Parliament. Just a remarkable diplomat who's been involved in a variety of initiatives, including one that many of us hold dear, and that is initiatives to foster dialogue, understanding, and the eventual hope of unification between the Democratic People's Republic of Korea and the Republic of Korea. And there's Marlies Latstetter. Marlies Latstetter serves as the assistant to the Deputy Secretary General and the federal commander in charge of the Red Cross in Austria. And Mylinda Matrak from Albania, who through the Women's Federation serves as an advisor to the Minister of Culture and Sports in Albania, particularly dealing with issues related to sustainable development. And she has a scientific background. She's also a recent graduate of HJI, and she combines her religious scholarship and motivation with her scientific background, and is really playing a leadership role in this area of sustainable development in our home country of Albania. Outstanding religious leadership. There's so many people that we could mention here. Obviously, Thomas Walsh, who served as chairman of UPF from 2005 to 2023, directly working with Mother Moon on so many projects related to the Koreas, related to Southeast Asia, related to Africa, and related to the Middle East. And we're really blessed to have his many years of experience, his work. He's met over 100 heads of state to be able to be a part of our work here at HJI at this time. And likewise, Taj Hamad with Wango. He has served in a variety of roles through the World Association of Non-Governmental Agents, and he also served as the secretary of the executive committee of all NGOs, DPI NGOs at the United Nations for several years, and played an amazing role there. So a very, very skilled diplomat who continues his work today, really fostering the building of relations at the UN, and also fostering interreligious dialogue, and traveling all around the world, and really just a very, very skilled diplomat who's collaborated very closely with Dr. Walsh for so many years, and we're proud likewise to number him amongst our alumni. And there's the American Clergy Leadership Conference, likewise, which was really pioneered by the work of Dr. Michael Jenkins. And nowadays, Young Sun Quinn, for so many years, also has played a very key role as an HJI graduate in really serving as a connection for this very important network of religious leaders all across the country. And she's a graduate of HJI, and she's currently now working on her Doctor of Ministry program with Dr. Gisakone. And Dr. Kyun Kim, who serves as the president of the World Christian Leadership Conference, which really was built out of the American Clergy Leadership Conference, and likewise the relationship, the building of a relationship with clergy in Korea as well. But it now has an international outreach, and Dr. Kyun Kim's role there is pivotal. He likewise holds a Master of Divinity from HJI. And then there's Reverend Damien Dunkley, who's our current regional chair and president of Family Federation for World Peace USA, and is involved currently in a very important campaign, really focusing on what he began a few years back, called Peace Starts With Me, really taking elements of the teachings of Father and Mother Moon and showing the ways in which they can be applied across denominations, across belief systems, and particularly the role that they can play in the building of family-centered relationships, which are pivotal to the healing of the many divisions which exist, as we know so well today in our country. And he's now doing a podcast as well called Peace Starts With Me, and many, many other things. And we're very excited about his leadership in the United States. And he also is a 2021 graduate of HJI. There's also Father Babu Matthew, who serves as the vicar. That's just one notch below bishop of the St. Stephen's Orthodox Church in New Jersey. And he did his Doctor of Ministry here. There are a number of religious leaders of other faiths who have joined us here and have enriched the HJI experience. And usually about 30% of our students are non-unificationists, and we really welcome that. We encourage them. They enrich our understanding, our appreciation of Christianity, and they deepen the interreligious dialogue so pivotal to the development of HJI. To close, I think many of you are aware of our programs of study. We have a certificate in unification leadership. It's an 18-credit graduate certificate. You can be able to do that program, and all of the courses in that program count towards the Master of Arts in Religious Studies. We also have a Master of Arts in Peace Studies, which is a fairly new program. It's been in place now. That this year we are welcoming our fourth cohort of students in the area of peace studies. We have a Master of Divinity, and we also have our Doctor of Ministry. We are also privileged to have been chosen to have a chapter of the Theta Alpha Kappa Religious Studies National Honor Society. And that particular National Honor Society is the premier religious studies honor society in the United States, and it is associated with the American Academy of Religion. It has a formal relationship with the American Academy of Religion. I want to close by mentioning a few of the activities on our virtual campus. Please just look at our homepage. There are things happening all the time. Just a few days ago, Dr. Walsh led a program on the commemorating the 40th anniversary of the imprisonment of Father Sun Myung Moon. And as our special speaker that evening, we had an opportunity to hear from Dr. Michael Jenkins, who did an outstanding job talking about the ways and the experiences that he had personally with Christian ministers during that period. It's a very exciting, wonderful session. I really thought it was of a professional quality, and it's something that many more people are going to want to see in the future. And we also have every year our Peace and Public Leadership International Conference. That was pioneered this year by Dr. Walsh, and many of us had the opportunity to participate in that program. And I know that there are more of those that are coming in the future. Likewise, there are a variety of other programs that we've had over the years that relate to faith and interfaith dialogue and bring together personalities such as Bishop Yunnan, who was a key figure in the signing of an accord of understanding between the Lutheran churches and the Roman Catholic Church with the Pope, actually. And this is Ryan Knox from the Church of Latter-day Saints of Jesus Christ, who's been involved for years as a liaison officer for the LDS at the United Nations. And Dr. Walsh has worked closely with him. It was a wonderful experience to have him join us. There are so many different programs that we can talk about that we are regularly having. Jan Fiegel, a figure for religious freedom in Europe, also who has served in the European Parliament and has served as the European Union's representative on religious freedom, also is a recipient of an honorary doctorate from HJI, and likewise a close associate and friend of our president, Dr. Walsh. We also hold every year our research day, where we invite our students to work on and show their particular fields and areas of research and concern. And we really want to encourage our students. We are a graduate school, purely a graduate school. We encourage our students to think not just about getting a good grade, that's nice, but we want them to think about getting published, being able to reach out to the broader world, to deepen the conversation, to extend the conversation, which we feel that is enriched, first of all, by our faith, and secondly, by our HJI experience, where we are really acquainted with the language, the approach, the expectations of dialogue in the academic world. And finally, I just want to say we have some remarkable internships at HJI. In terms of our Peace Studies program, we've had our students intern at places such as NATO, the United Nations, the Red Cross, United Nations University. And also, we've had a number of our students do chaplaincy internships in places such as the building there is the Robert Johnson University Medical Center in New Jersey, the Westchester Medical Center, Vassar Brothers, and so many places. And a number of our students, I don't know the exact number, but over a dozen of our students are professional chaplains in hospitals, not just in the New York area, but also in various places around the country. So all of these things are happening, and our graduates are involved in all types of remarkable opportunities. And already through the internships at HJI, they have a chance to get their feet wet and take the next steps in these areas. So HJI has a special provenance. It was inspired and developed by Father Moon and Mother Moon together way back in 1975. They blessed the opening. They attended so many of the graduations. They were involved in so many of the activities over so many years. And with the passing of Father Moon in 2012, Mother Moon had a very special course for 7 years. And at the conclusion of that course, one of the things that she announced was that it was the time to be able to, for this institution, which began as a seminary, to take a new step forward in terms of its work as a religious institution. So that was a special provenance. And we have a proud history, as you can see, the remarkable people that have graduated from HJI over the years. And because of our current students, and because of our alums, and because of what we represent, we also feel that we have a promising future. So for those of you who are not part of the remarkable HJI family, I just invite you to think about joining us this fall. And you might want to consider even just starting with taking a course this fall, just one course, and seeing if this is the right place for you, seeing whether or not this contributes to your ministry and to your work. I just would really encourage you. I didn't think about ever studying at the seminary, but somehow in 1979, I felt, let's give it a try. And I've never regretted it. My life has been a remarkable life, a singular life, because of the blessings that really came as a result of taking that bold a part of HJI and preparing myself as a professional to be able to dialogue beyond just our own community to a broader audience. So thank you all very much for being patient and listening in tonight. Dr. Walsh, I hope I wasn't too long-winded, but anyway, I sometimes get a little too excited, so I ask your forbearance if I was too long-winded.
Well, I was hoping you would elaborate much more on my roles in the law, but it's okay in the interest of time. But next time, please. No, really excellent. I learned a lot and was happy to see those photos of so many good friends and colleagues over many years. So thank you, Dr. Ward. Excellent. Now we're going to turn to two of our Hall of Fame alumni, I call them, and that is Reverend Kevin Thompson and Mrs. Kayleigh Moffitt. Reverend Kevin Thompson is one of the regional chairs of our movement in America, working for many decades as a leader on the West Coast, based in San Francisco. Has a remarkable history in our church and movement. And Mrs. Kayleigh Moffitt is a more recent graduate and was working with Universal Peace Federation in the United States for a number of years and brought great value and strength to that organization. And she shifted a couple of years back to Women's Federation, where she was asked to take on the position of the presidency of that great organization. So I'm going to just, for everyone's sake, I've posed 3 questions to Reverend Thompson. Maybe we'll lead off with you, Reverend Thompson, and you'll have about 8 or 9 minutes maximum to tell us a little bit about yourself, number one. Number two, what lured you to study at HJI, and what were some of the most significant, memorable, and important experiences that you had during your time at HJI that helped prepare you for your later ministry and public leadership? Your work in the sphere of peace and public leadership is the terminology we use in our title. So for both Reverend Thompson and Mrs. Moffitt, we'll be kind of sharing with those 3 points in mind. So in the interest of time, I'll go straight away to you first, Reverend Thompson, and please keep to the time. I'll intervene after about 8 minutes.
Okay. Thank you very much. That was an amazing presentation. I learned a lot about HJI that I didn't realize how incredible the alumni is. So I'm very proud to be one of the alumni. I grew up in England and in a non-religious family. Religion never played any role in our family at all. I left school when I was 16 years old. It's not dropping out of school. You decide if you're going to go into a trade or not. So I became a shipbuilder, a welder in a shipyard, and I went to a trade school. While there, of course, I got involved with unions and became a socialist/communist. Later on, I moved to America and I joined the Unification Church, which was a shock to my family that I joined any church. It didn't matter what church it was, but so yeah, I went a typical Unification Church route. I did MFT for 3 years, and then I was doing the Ocean Church mission for quite a few years, especially dealing with youth and character education on the ocean. That's what I was doing. And then one day, suddenly I was asked, would you like to be the pastor of the church in San Francisco? And okay, if that's what you want me to do. I got no training. I'd never been to seminary or anything like that. But I became the pastor, and I quickly found out I wish I had gone to the seminary. I wish I knew what I was doing, and probably the congregation wished I knew what I was doing. And I tried to cut, and I've been the pastor in San Francisco area for 32 years now. So I've learned a few things along the way, but I tried a number of times to quit and move to New York and study at HJI, but I was always rebuffed. Didn't want to let me go, and later on it became possible that you could study remotely. So I did almost all of my study remotely. I did one semester in New York, but besides that, I did all my study remotely and very, very slowly. I took 12 years to graduate. I don't know if that's a record, but it's certainly a record for me, to hang on that long and keep going. I just kept taking one class after another. And that's what I could budget time for. I just kept going. I really loved the classes. I did one semester in New York. I loved being with the other students. I would have preferred to be in-house if possible, just for the fellowship and a camaraderie of going through together. But from a distance, I loved the classes. I learned so much, especially Dr. Mikla's history classes, Christian history and unification history. I loved Dr. Wilson's Bible classes, including Divine Principle class. Every class I took was just very, very useful for me, because it was dealing with things that I'm dealing with all the time as a pastor. And it gave me confidence to be able to speak with other Christian leaders. I felt like I grew in stature with them, and I felt like I could meet them eye to eye. And it really helped me to gain confidence in interreligious activity. My experience with HJI has been very, very positive. And once I graduated, of course, I was given bigger and bigger responsibilities. I'm now the senior pastor over 11 states of the Unification Church, with 20 churches to supervise. And I encourage anybody I meet, if you haven't been to HJI, you should go. I think a lot of people maybe have concepts that I have to move to New York, but I'm a living testimony that you don't need to necessarily to move to New York. You can do it remotely as much as possible. And yeah, like I said, the responsibilities I have a lot of confidence because of my learning at HJI. And I would thoroughly recommend to anybody who's contemplating and maybe hesitant, just move forward, take a step, and then you'll take the next step and the next step, and before you know it, in a short time you could graduate. And as we just heard from Dr. Ward, what an august body of students and amazing people doing amazing things. So I'm very proud and happy to be part of this alumni. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Reverend Thompson. Well said. And I can testify to your great work in the Bay Area and your wider region. I had the good fortune to be with you in 2019 in November when, with your help, we organized a program at the Grace Cathedral. I think it was near the Fairmont Hotel, and there were religious leaders from all over California, really an interfaith group, and we were addressing issues of crime prevention, criminal justice, and the role of faith leaders. It was a wonderful, wonderful program, and I really enjoyed being with you and your wife, and even the historicity of the history of San Francisco related to the development of the Charter of the UN. We both spent time in the Fairmont looking at photos of when the delegates, the 50 or so delegates that drafted the charter, gathered. But anyway, thank you for your ministry, your public leadership that contributes to peace in the world. Thank you. I'm going to turn now to another Hall of Famer alum, Mrs. Kaylee Moffett, who I had the pleasure and benefit to work with when I was focused on the Universal Peace Federation work, and then was so happy that she was part of the HJI community. So, Ms. Moffett, the same set of questions and timeline. I'd like to turn it over to you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Walsh. It's nice to see you, and always happy to share the stage with Reverend Thompson, who's so enjoyable to listen to no matter what he's talking about. So thank you very much. My background is, my parents were a part of the unification movement, and so I grew up in the movement within a very spiritual culture. And I think one of the things about growing up in a spiritual movement is you appreciate the values of what you're raised with, but you don't always see the wider and deeper impact of what you were raised with because you're just so used to it. And when I finished, I had been doing youth ministry when I was in high school and through college in my local church. And when I finished college, I started working for Macy's in a kind of like a fast track program to get you to be like a manager of a store. And after a year of it, my soul was dead. And I decided that wasn't the right path for me. Although I was making really good money, I wasn't happy. And so I pursued a more spiritual pathway for my career and how I wanted to live my life. But I have to admit that I was very reluctant to study at HJI. And so even when I was working for Family Federation headquarters in youth and young adult ministry, now Kimi tried many times to get me to join the new cohorts that were coming for many of our friends. And I kind of just stuck up my nose and felt like this, that's not for me. That's not my kind of thing. And I didn't, I don't see myself as a scholarly type person. I see myself as a very practical person. But after, I think, almost 2 years of now Kimi trying, I had a change in my mission and a little bit more time, it felt like, although that changed a few months later. And I decided to try taking some classes. And soon after, I got assigned to UPF, as Dr. Walsh mentioned. And I also suddenly felt, wow, I don't know enough to work in this field. I had grown up in a very spiritual culture, but I didn't have enough life experience working with high-level political leaders. And I was so grateful because right after Mother Moon initiated this new Peace Studies master's program, and so I could make the transition to that master's program. And I found that as I was working for UPF and as I was studying at HJI, I was so grateful for the educational foundation that was being provided for me in the work that I was doing. I felt I could have conversations with people. I understood what they were talking about. And I think the most impactful part of it is recognizing that the work of Father and Mother Moon is so much bigger than just a spiritual community, that actually they are the greatest examples of peace building that is so desperately needed in our world. And the Peace Studies program had many special classes and special sessions that were devoted to kind of analyzing the work of Father and Mother Moon in comparison to other efforts in peace building. And it really built my confidence to be able to very proudly talk about Father and Mother Moon. As a second generation of the Unificationist movement, you can often feel like, you would be misunderstood or judged. But among my peers, I notice the way I talk about Father and Mother Moon is very different because of this kind of exposure and experience. So I'm so grateful for it. And I'm also, like Reverend Thompson, so grateful that I could do almost all of it remotely and asynchronously. Not only do I have a busy life and have a public mission, I have 3 young children. And that's busy. That's a job 3 jobs in and of themselves. But I was able to maintain, good grades and a good experience because I could do it asynchronously. And so I'm so grateful for that kind of availability. And I think that makes it much more available for others who are on the fence about being able to study at HJI. Not only did it help me, in my understanding of the world and peace building, but I think I echo Reverend Thompson that there are the more internally based classes that really force you to dig deeper in your own understanding and make your own conclusions so that you can have confidence also in your personal life, not just in your public work, but in your personal life and your understanding of how you feel God is working in your life and in the world. So I also, in the Peace Studies program is unique because you have many international students. So at least in my cohort, we had students from each region from all over the world. And now I work with most of them because we kind of, went through those phases together. So the exposure to meeting other like-minded individuals, the networking that also happens in that area, even though it's online, actually you do build close relationships because for us, we go as a cohort. So you're with a similar group of people in many of your classes, which is so wonderful because by the end of it, you really got to know each other and you look forward to seeing each other when you have the opportunity. So I think I will pass it back to you, Dr. Walsh. Thank you so much for the chance to share tonight.
Wonderful, wonderful presentation, Kaylee. And, you have been a great inspiration to our entire faculty and staff as we've seen you as a student, but also just to see how you carry out your work in ministry and public leadership makes us proud. And you surely belong in that PowerPoint that Dr. Ward presented. I like what you said. I feel education, of course, never ends, but somehow an immersion in this kind of program and these courses gives us a foundation for the broader enjoyment. It's something to build on. I mean, it's the deeper we're able to move into the wisdom of the ages. It's more exciting and stimulating, and the skills we learn in graduate study stay with us and make that a lifelong pleasure. I mean, I get so much out of it. Every book I read, and I know that trails back to my studies, and particularly at HJI, where I can focus particularly on what interests me most is religion and its application to all the sectors of society, which you pointed out at the beginning very beautifully. And, I know your mom and dad and their life of service, and both in their own right, brilliant, a brilliant man and woman. Dan is certainly a scholar in his own right, and proud of both of them. So thank you, Kaylee. I think we're going to move now to the next phase of inviting Dean Boyd to come back in, and he's going to share a little bit about our programs. And then we'll close out with some time for a Q&A. Dean Boyd?
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Walsh. I'm so inspired. Oh my gosh, I'm so lucky to be able to work at this place, and I'm a student here also, which is I'll mention in a minute.
Dean Boyd, I just want to mention, I know that Reverend Thompson he has another meeting in, I think, 1 minute, and it's possible that Mrs. Moffat too, but I know we all thank them for being with us.
Yes. Thank you, Reverend Thompson. Thank you, Mrs. Moffat. God bless you both. Really shining examples of what HJI means in many ways. So thank you for sharing, even briefly, your stories and your experience here. So my job before we close the evening is to talk a little bit more, kind of along the lines of what Dr. Ward spoke about our programs of study. So I'm going to share my screen. This will be a relatively short presentation. Just to give you an idea, a little bit better idea of who we are in terms of our programs of study, and why we're inviting you to come tonight to hear what we have to say about our institution. So I always like to, and this is kind of a quote from Father Moon, given to the first class of the beginning class of HJI, then UTS, where in his words, he explains what the seminary is. He says a seminary is not a place or a building. It is these people who are equipped with the spirit and ideal given by God. Armed upon graduation with the capacity for creative leadership, these students, I am sure, will be able to usher in a new world.
Ahead of 5 feet, we'll have Laura Trump with us. Again, thank you for watching.
I am sure I will be able to usher in a new world of higher dimension after removing society's vicious social vices. So, Dr. Ward, when you were going through really this incredibly detailed list and actually partial list of our distinguished graduates, I really felt, I remembered this quote, and I really felt that the work that Reverend Misumu began in 75 has brought in tremendous result and fruition, and it continues to do so. So HJI wants to be a resource to our greater community and also to the non-unificationist community, focusing upon the areas of ministry and public leadership, as Dr. Walsh pointed out. We're directing our efforts to support our Family Federation leaders and the affiliated organizations to Family Federation for World Peace and Unification. That's the Universal Peace Federation, Women's Federation for World Peace, ACLC, WCLC, YSP, and others. But as Dr. Walsh and Dr. Ward spoke, we have many students. A third of our student body is actually individuals from various faith backgrounds, various Christian backgrounds, and different religious backgrounds. And we'll talk more about that in a minute. And all of this is in one aspect of our work is to create and to work with interfaith leaders who can make a difference in the world of ecumenical dialogue and interreligious communication. Importantly, our degree programs are, of course, registered with the New York State Department of Education, but we are also accredited by the Middle States Commission of Higher Education. And for those of you who are in the US, you would understand the importance of this. But for those of you who are tuning in from abroad, in America, the highest accrediting bodies for university education, undergraduate and graduate, is not a national accrediting body. It's not the US government. It's actually it's regional organizations formed of peer universities. So we are accredited by the same accrediting body that would accredit, for example, Columbia University or Cornell or Princeton They're all in our same area. So of the highest level, and a degree received at HJI can be recognized, of course, throughout the U.S., but throughout the entire world. These are our programs of study, as Dr. Ward pointed out, and I'll go through them one by one, but very briefly. Our certificate program in unification studies is not a master's degree. It's less than a master's degree. It requires you complete 6 courses in 3 areas: unification studies, theological studies, and ministry. Our Master of Arts in Religious Studies is a full-fledged master's degree program, 39 credits plus 3 credits of thesis or internship. And as was mentioned, this degree program is fully online. Reverend Thompson explained it very well. No longer do our students have to move from around the world or from different parts of the U.S. and live in the New York area to attend classes. You can do this from the comfort of your home. Religious Studies master's degree focuses upon Old Testament and New Testament, church history. There are courses in divine principle, in systematic theology, in ethics, and you have a thesis or a project when you complete, or an internship when you complete your studies. And you can do, if you choose, a concentration in public and nonprofit leadership, interfaith peace building, unification studies, theological studies, and we also have a Korean language track for those who are interested in the Korean language. The Master of Arts in Peace Studies is likewise a 39 credit program with 3 credits of thesis or internship, and again, fully online. This is a program delivered through Canvas, which is an online learning platform, which is used by hundreds, even thousands of universities in America and around the world. And in this, as Mrs. Moffat was explaining, core courses can focus on areas such as peace and conflict studies, human rights, law and government, conflict analysis and transformation, unification approaches to peace, and other areas. And then on the right there, you see some elective courses that you may choose also to include in your degree program. Ecumenism and interfaith, world religions and global conflict, ethics and social justice, and others. The Master of Divinity is a lengthy, for a full-time student, it's a 3-year degree, an 80 credit program that has a theological curriculum and a ministry curriculum, as you can see on the screen. The Master of Divinity is really the gold standard for anyone in the religious pathway and ministry who's seeking to be ordained within their traditional church, within their own church. There's a field component of clinical pastoral education. This is really a complete degree for those seeking to continue their work in ministry. And as Dr. Ward mentioned, Dr. Ki-Hoon Kim is a graduate of the Master of Divinity program from HJI. Our Doctor of Ministry program is a 28 credit degree program, 28 credits of coursework, plus 6 credits in your dissertation project. And the coursework is grouped around seminar kind of course presentations in areas such as spiritual formation and integration, theological and ethical perspectives on leadership, transformational leadership, and other areas. This is an excellent degree for those who, it's the highest degree, it's a terminal degree in this field of study. And of course, many of our graduates have achieved great success having completed this degree program. Cost is naturally of interest. I mean, we all struggle financially, but what we've done here to give you idea, I think those in the U.S. can appreciate this. This is a breakdown of costs per credit hour of 3 seminaries in the New York City area to give you an idea how we compare to them: Union, New York Theological, and General Theological. So those are their costs. HJ International cost per credit hour is $5.85. But let me emphasize that there are excellent, very generous scholarship opportunities I'll mention here in a moment. For unification, first generation unificationists, you can receive up to 50% scholarship. There's no separate application for a scholarship. You apply to one of our programs of study, we will automatically consider you for a scholarship. And if you qualify, you will be notified of that scholarship at the time of your admission. Next generation unificationists can receive up to 70% off from the regular cost of tuition. So you can see this is quite affordable. And there are also payment plans for those that we encourage people to pay at the beginning of the semester. Most do, but for those who would prefer a monthly payment plan, you can also make payment during the semester through that kind of installment system. We also have the Founders Scholarship, which is directed towards our non-unificationist student members. This is a merit-based scholarship based upon your academic performance prior to applying to HJI. And the scholarship can range between 20 to 50%. Again, extremely generous. So to give you an idea about the kind of courses, so let's say that you're thinking about HJI, and I know some of you are. What kind of courses might be available that I might take? Maybe just take 1 or 2 courses to start and get a taste of what it's like to study at our institution. Reverend Thompson talked about how fascinated he was by Dr. Mickler's history courses. This semester, Dr. Mickler is offering a course in History of Christianity 2, which is the history of Christianity from the Reformation to modern times in the 20th century. Excellent course. I highly recommend this course. Very informative, really helps you understand what's happened in Christian history and gives you a better idea about the foundation, the historical foundation we stand on. Dr. Andrew Wilson, who is a distinguished professor here at HJI, is teaching this semester the Hebrew Bible, which is the teaching of the Old Testament. I've taken this course. This is an incredible, really inspirational course to give you insight into the life of the Israelites and the Jewish people prior to the coming of Jesus. Really an amazing course. Dr. Ward this semester is giving a course called Unification Worldview. I highly recommend this course. I was just helping Dr. Ward in a little project that had to do with the slide presentations he uses in this course. This is really the continuation of much of the work that came out of the seminary in the 1980s, which became the work of Causa, helping us understand the current situation in the world, how we can face the problems we have to deal with, arming us with understanding and with real tools to be able to deal with concrete issues that we are facing constantly in this modern age, in the postmodern world. Also, Dr. Walsh is, as I mentioned when I was introducing Dr. Walsh, a course called World Religion and Encounter with Christianity. Dr. Walsh is, we're so lucky to have him here as our president. Sometimes in the programs like this, it's like we get an example of the kind of content that's offered in this classes. So again, another idea of a classes you might want to take. And also Korean Language 2 is being taught this semester by an excellent instructor, also a former HJI student, Miss Christina Miyake, fluent, of course, in English, but also in Japanese and Korean. She studied in Korea. Her native tongue is English, but because of that, she has a wonderful way of communicating the nuances of the Korean language to the students in class. We've had some wonderful testimonies of those students enrolled in her coursework. So just to conclude, you may be thinking, and I know some of you are, maybe you should take a class. So I encourage you to take the plunge. This is the phrase that was coined as the HJI challenge. Take the HJI challenge. That's what I did. I came here to work at HJI 4 years ago. Dr. Ward at that time was president, and he encouraged me to take a class. Honestly, I was not really thinking to go to school again. I'd done my master's degree many years prior, but as Dean of Enrollment and Student Life, I thought maybe it's good that I go into the classroom and see what happens, what's there. So my encouragement to you is to take 1 or 2 classes to begin with. What will you discover? Well, when I explain to you is what I discovered. First of all, I discovered a very engaging classroom. I've worked in higher ed now for over 20 years at more than one institution, and I've been exposed to both in my own study, but also to the academic world. The classes here are very rich and very engaging. I was also particularly inspired by the very, very bright students. inspiring students, intelligent students in the classroom with meaningful conversation around the topics offered. In addition, there's no doubt that our faculty is highly qualified. Again, my experience in higher ed in different universities gives me a foundation to make this statement that our professors are actually excellent. They're excellent in their knowledge, but also in the communication skills. And really, they care for the students in offering individualized attention to meet the students' needs or any challenges that you may face. As I said, we have both first and second generation unificationists. I was particularly inspired to be in the classroom with second generation unificationists. Kaylee Moffat is a wonderful example of the bright and experienced next generation students we have here. But beyond that, this is maybe different from other schools of this nature. We have people from other faith religions who freely profess their ideas, and we share and we learn from each other. This is really a kind of a groundwork, a training. If you're thinking about interreligious dialogue or ecumenical exchange, this is a place where you begin to get that foundation. So to sum up, honestly, HJI is affordable. Of course, in the modern graduate student of this day tends to be a mid-career professional. He already has a job, he's working full-time or has a full-time mission. He has family responsibilities, so time and money are very limited. But truly, this is an option that is very affordable. And as both Kaylee and Reverend Thompson expressed, it's a very doable program. It may take you longer or shorter time period, but you can get it done. It's truly enjoyable. And as we're seeing, in terms of career outcome, which is a great measure of the quality of education received, this is a very valuable education. So I'd just like to close by quoting this passage from Mother Moon's memoir, Mother of Peace, in which she says, "Every one of us needs to feel deeply grateful for being born. There is not one person whose birth is meaningless. Moreover, no person's life is his or hers alone. Heaven, earth, and all things in the universe interconnect through lines of latitude and longitude. Peace means that all the energies in the entire world and in the entire universe are in harmony. Therefore, no one should belittle his or her life. We should deeply realize that everyone is a precious being born through the sacred workings of the universe." So, often coming to school, you feel God knocking on the door of your heart. You feel a certain calling. You may feel that it's time for a change in my life, or you may feel directly the inspiration, I need to go back to school and study. Or you may not have even been thinking about going to graduate school, but something that was said tonight maybe makes you realize maybe this is what God is preparing me for. So my suggestion is to pray, ask God, consult with the students that you know who were here, and make a decision, at least to give it a try. This is my contact information. I put it in the chat box. You're welcome to write me anytime or give me a call. I'll be happy to help you in any way I can. Do not hesitate. And also don't think it's not for me, because we have so many students with so many different backgrounds, different ages that have succeeded mightily, and you can be one just like that. So I put also in the chat box the application link. Normally there's an application fee, but we will waive that tonight as a thank you for coming and joining us. So Dr. Walsh, with that, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and I'll ask you to come back up and
Thank you, Dean Stephen Boyd. Excellent presentation. We're going to immediately open up for any Q&A. I know there have been some questions in the chat column, but maybe we can go to gallery mode. Dean Boyd, what do you suggest?
Sure.
And then if anyone has a question.
You're welcome to type your question in the chat box, or you can use your raise the hand feature on the Zoom kind of control panel at the bottom there. Any question at all, we'll be happy to help. Sometimes your questions get answered during the presentation because we try to anticipate them as best as we can.
I see we have our founding Dean Therese Stewart with us. We're grateful that you're here this evening. You look great, and you're forever connected to HJI and in our hearts.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I'm glad I've been able to be here. Only I'm sorry I was late. So I missed some of those photographs and so forth, but will there be a replay available?
Yes.
Okay, great.
It'll be on our YouTube. And,
Yeah. I'm very inspired at what our graduates have done and are doing
well, it's
here tonight.
a credit to you and your dedication in those formative years for all of us. Thank you. I see also with us, not on camera, but Dr. Eileen Barker from the London School of Economics, and a dear friend and scholar of religion, and particularly a focus on new religious movements. And she knows us better than we know ourselves. Thank you for joining us, Eileen. Anything you want to say?
Very impressive.
Well, you're impressive. So it's always thank you for joining the conference. Dr. Ward referenced it, and that particular session with Massimo and Dr. Mickler was particularly good, and we're very grateful to you as a mentor to all of us.
I also remember Therese Stewart from Barrytown about, 40, 50 years ago or something.
How do you both look so young? You were probably around 10 years old at that time. I think my memory, Eileen, is I first met you at one of the ICAS meetings. I forget which one, but because we were on the staff of those meetings, the students, we all went and picked up participants and had all kinds of basic organizational tasks in those days.
1974 was my first one in London.
Well, that was really the first one.
I think it was the second.
Was it?
I think there was one in New York before that, but I may be wrong.
No, you're probably right.
I think so.
Well, Dean Boyd, what do you think? No, we went over time, so we should be punished, but
Yeah, Dr. Walsh, maybe do you have any final words you'd like to offer before we close?
well, just as has been said, I thank everyone for joining, and especially to see many people, old friends and dear friends, but also some names that I don't recognize. And I hope you're thinking to take a course. I think one thing I always say is don't be intimidated. Our commitment is to help you be a successful student and get the most out of your experience. And you're not expected to come as an expert, but to be someone who's humble enough to be willing to learn and to spend some time devoted to your studies. It's a great faculty, a great experience, and it will only enrich your life. Don't let any feeling of, maybe I'm not smart enough or capable enough or whatever stand in your way. Dr. Ward, anything you want to add at the close?
I just one thing I want to take off. Well, first of all, I'm really grateful to see Eileen Barker this evening. Eileen, I had promised you my book. Somehow I didn't get your email, or maybe it's just but I put a message in the tonight on the chat for you. If you just email me, I'm very happy to get it to you. That's a personal thing. But Dr. Walsh, I wanted to say I was inspired by what Kevin Thompson said tonight, that after coming to HJI, he ended up getting more responsibility and having a different role. And I really do feel, and Young Soon Quinn, whose picture I showed this evening, she said that in a sense, somehow the whole process of going to HJI, it's like a spiritual process. And many people, they come to HJI, it's like a rite of passage. And after that, they move on to a different level of responsibility and activity in the movement. And I think that so many of us had that kind of experience. And so I just want to say that there's something to HJI beyond the area of just study per se, but I do think that there's an anointing that happens here for a lot of people. And I would encourage you to think about that if you feel called and you think this might be the right time to move on to a different level of action in our movement. I do think that you receive a very important preparation through the HJI experience. So start with a class and see whether that through that you have a calling in this area. But that's my thought.
Well said. Well, I think, Dean Boyd, we can close on that note.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us.